Welcome to A Mason's Work, the podcast where we review Masonic symbols and illustrate how they can be used to solve problems in everyday life. With your host, Brian Mattox, a proud member of the Craftsman Online Media Network.
So today, I want to talk about the senses. I recognize that this may, for some of you, sound like the topic of a well-articulated kindergarten class, but there's a ton of depth in exploring and understanding the senses. The senses you have, the senses that you have that you don't know about, because there's very likely several of those, and how that information should be used to facilitate a much more effective process. So again, as you've probably heard, I'm a process guy. The entire content of this week's episodes and a significant portion of last week's are about process and understanding how processes work. And a big part of crafting processes that work and the processes that matter is understanding what data you have at your disposal to make the process refinement work. And sense data is, from a human experience, perspective, sense data is one of your primary sort of daily drivers of what's going on. In fact, it's so vital to understand what it is you're feeling and seeing and hearing and tasting and all that kind of stuff. It's so important that you learn how to do this again, that I'm giving this an episode, and we may end up having to turn this into several episodes because we have often, as a society, told folks to ignore what they see or hear or feel in service to that outcome achievement. And so we talked about this again as a recurring thread through a lot of our episodes. Don't focus on outcomes, focus on process. So what are the senses you have available to you, right? The easy and obvious ones, the five senses. So what is traditionally the five senses? Sight, sound, hearing, I guess sound is in a sense, but you get tasting, feeling, all that kind of stuff. You get the smell, and you get the rest of the things. There's a bunch of nuance here because touch is like 10 different senses by itself. The sense of hot, the sense of cold, the sense of pressure, all of those kind of things. There's a tons of nuance in touch. There is a lot of nuance in proprioception, the understanding of where objects are in space and time. There's a ton of depth in things like balance and feeling a sense of balance. Every one of these senses is essentially feeding your conscious mind information at all times. And what has likely happened if you were a regular human being is that you have shut most of that off. You only notice the outliers. You only notice the extremes, the places where, it is a place of discomfort or joy. And so when you only focus on the extremes, you miss a lot of the nuanced details. Your body's actually providing you a ton of insight and wisdom right now that you could be using to craft a better experience right now. So what does that mean? That means, and I don't know where you are, what you're doing. If you're driving, most certainly don't try and do this kind of mental body scan. But if you're sitting in a comfortable position or laying down or wherever you are doing the podcast thing, take a moment to kind of mentally scan through your senses. What am I seeing? What is the light level in the room? What are the colors I'm seeing? What are the textures I'm seeing? How can I look at the textures around me and can I imagine what they feel like? What am I hearing? What are the words that are being said? What's the space between words like? What is the experiences I'm having with the background noise and the other things going on in my life? This mindfulness practice where you stop and recalibrate your instrumentation so that you can get better sense data, because again, most of us are used to ignoring the meters and knobs and dials here in the console. you're going to be able to, as you enhance your understanding of these things and your feeling of these things, understand that there's information that we are vital information that we often ignore because we just haven't looked at that indicator in some time. Little things that really can go a long way. And we'll go back to, again, my favorite kind of analogy area, and that is, health. When you don't pay attention to the texture of the food you eat, the crunchiness or the slipperiness or the creaminess or whatever it is, when that all goes by because you're busy stuffing other stuff into your eyeballs, like watching, YouTube or a television show or something like that, and you miss all of the experience of the eating because you've sort of turned that sense off and turned on another, other senses that have more, attention grabbing stuff, you miss the entire process of the food that you just ate. So the kind of initial guidance here for those trying to figure this stuff out is it's a rule that we have actually in Pennsylvania Freemasonry when it comes to training folks how to do stuff. And it is one thing at a time. We never do multiple simultaneous motions if we can avoid it in our ritual. And the same thing is true when it comes to doing a body scan and understanding what's going on with you. Slow down and try and sense one thing at a time. Now, this is impossible, right? Because you're going to be simultaneously breathing and seeing or breathing and hearing or moving, or you'll have temperature or whatever. And all of that's going to be happening all in the present moment. The present moment is so full of information that it's very easy to get overwhelmed by it. But if you focus on one part at a time, one little bit, you should be able to start to cultivate a stronger awareness. And that stronger awareness turns into a more informed process over time. And it will create better outcomes for you long term. So invest in the senses. I think you'll find that there's a lot there.
The views represented in this podcast are those of the speaker alone and are not representative of any grand or subordinate lodge.
Hi, Brian here. I wanted to thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you have any suggestions or guidance for further episodes you'd like to see or hear, whatever the case may be, please don't hesitate to reach out to me at amasonswork.com, and we will try and incorporate your suggestions into a future recording. Thanks.
Freemasonry teaches us that the true work is within, a lifelong journey of reflection, discipline, and discovery. At A Mason's Work, we help Masons bring out their best selves through meaningful self-inquiry and symbolic practice. From personal reflection to lodge engagement, we offer tools that turn symbols into action. Visit us at amasonswork.com. The work is within. The time is now.